What is up, gang? Welcome back to the channel. Once again, I am here with a quick update on the 1MDB stuff. Actually, a couple of things that happened over the last few days that are just interesting. First of all, we have a brand new article from Variety this morning that is extremely timely in relation to what we have been talking about. So we have this Ari Emanuel's Endeavor acquired a stake in Elon Musk's Twitter. We have been talking about this all week. My last video, of course, went heavily into the relationship between these two. So let's take a look at this real quick and then we'll recap if you haven't seen my last video yet. Earlier this year, Ari Emanuel, the legendary agent who is the CEO of Endeavor, led the company's small investment in Twitter just a few months after it was acquired by his friend and mega billionaire Elon Musk, Variety confirmed. The size of Endeavor's Twitter stake could not be learned, but a source familiar with the transaction said it was not material to Endeavor, and it's worth noting that they did not disclose it in any SEC filings. They made the investment in Twitter mid-January, and Musk has been seeking outside funding for the social network to help pay off the debt of the $44 billion deal. Prior to Musk's takeover, Emanuel reportedly got involved in the dispute between Twitter's board and Musk. And yes, this is one of the things that I talked about the other day, because there is this other article that includes these famous pictures of Elon on the boat, but that is Ari hosing him down. Hollywood super agent and Endeavor CEO Ari Emanuel reportedly tried to broker a deal between Elon and Twitter's board of directors. He contacted Twitter board member Egon Durbin, remember this name is going to come up in just a moment again, within the last few weeks to recommend the two sides reach a settlement before their case goes to trial, a report said on Friday. And that was September 30th of last year. So getting back to this article, Emanuel has ties to both Durbin and Musk. Durbin is the co-CEO of a tech investment firm, Silver Lake, and currently sits on Endeavor's board. Shocker. Musk had been on Endeavor's board of directors before resigning in March of 2022. Over the last several years, Endeavor's made several investments in companies in and adjacent to its business. And Twitter is in the same vein as being strategically relevant to the conglomerate's core businesses of representation, media, and sports. So there is that. Just really interesting considering I have been talking about them and their relationship and that whole thing for a little while. So here you have all them. And I went heavily into that whole friendship and this entire chart in the last video. So if you haven't gotten a chance to check it out yet, go ahead and head over there to the Rabbit Hole 2.0 video, because all this gets covered in there. Now I want to go into another article that I posted on Twitter. This one is much more relevant to the 1MDB case that is going to be going to trial at the end of the month, and revolves around Pras Michel. And this is the main piece of the story that ignited all of my coverage over the last week. And this is just a very lengthy overview with a lot of very interesting details and really espionage-esque stories of what happened here and what to expect going forward. This is some real serious shit. So I am not going to read the whole thing. It's very long, but of course I'll post a link in the description. Just want to go over a few things, kind of some highlights, and keep this video kind of short for today. The Fuji, the Fugitive, and the FBI. How rapper Pras Michel got entangled in one of the century's great financial scandals, mediated a high-stakes negotiation between global superpowers, and was accused of major crimes. So in the spring of 2017, he received a phone call, and his cousin from China, quote, said he needed to meet the woman on the line, said. The caller was an ex-girlfriend who Michel, a rapper, producer, and member of legendary hip-hop group The Fugees, hadn't spoken to in years. He grew up in a Haitian family in New Jersey and doesn't have a cousin from China, but he knew what the message went. He got dressed and got in a car, went over to the Four Seasons Hotel on 57th Street in Manhattan. The front desk clerk handed him a note. It instructed him to exit the hotel and circle the block twice, scanning to see if he was being tailed. Michel did as he was told and returned to the clerk, who gave him a room key. He went up to the empty suite and waited. After 25 minutes, there was a knock on the door. An austere looking Chinese security agent in a suit gave Michelle a second room key, told him to go to the penthouse. Inside, another agent took Michelle's phone and placed them in a pouch. The table and two chairs sat in the middle of the room. I mean, this is like a crazy spy heist movie already. Soon, a short, chubby man with wavy hair arrived, surrounded by more security. Michelle met him before. He was Sun Lijun, China's Vice Minister of Public Security, and he began shouting in Chinese. An interpreter translated for Michelle, "Who the F do the U.S. government think they are?" Of particular concern to Sun was Guo Wengui. If you remember, this name came up in one of the articles in the very first rabbit hole video that I posted. A real estate billionaire living on a temporary visa in New York from his home overlooking Central Park. Guo had enraged the Chinese government by making a series of scandalous claims to the media purporting to reveal the assets of top Communist Party officials. About 2 months later, an FBI special agent interrupted Michel at brunch near his apartment in Soho. The agent had 12 photos of Chinese officials and many questions. Who did Michel meet at the Four Seasons? Who else had contacted him from the Chinese government? And of course, how did a famous rapper and record producer find himself in the middle of a high stakes negotiation between global superpowers? His involvement began by chance around 2006 when he met a baby-faced Malaysian businessman named Joe Low. We have heard that name many, many times now. Low was a globe-trotting financier whose lavish spending would put him on familiar terms with dozens of A-list entertainers. But by 2016, U.S. investigators believed he'd masterminded the embezzlement of billions of dollars from the Malaysian Sovereign Wealth Fund, 1MDB, blowing much of it on artwork, real estate, and gifts for celebrity friends, including Leo DiCaprio and Kim Kardashian. Few were as close as Low and Michelle. Prosecutors seized $95 million that they alleged originated with Low from Michelle's accounts. Wow. This little advertisement here, what the FBI got from DiCaprio and Kardashian, I did also link a story about that on Twitter, so you can go head over there and find that as well if you're interested to see what happened in their depositions and what the government wound up taking back from them in terms of the gifts and money and stuff. So the government winds up, of course, confiscating all these assets from Michelle to investigate this wild tale of celebrity and political intrigue. Bloomberg Businessweek drew on legal filings, interviews with people close to the case, and a cache of previously undisclosed FBI and Justice Department documents. Records show Michelle, at Low's request, helped assemble a team of Republican influencers, including fundraiser Elliot Brody, businesswoman Nikki Lum Davis, and casino magnate Steve Wynn, capable of reaching the highest levels of the Trump administration as it took hold of the U.S. government. This story is absolutely wild. I really, really recommend you go read this article in full because it's going to give you the entire rundown and the whole picture of what's going on very specifically within this case and this trial. But here we have Joe Low lounging on a yacht with some wine on his phone. This is the most like scandalous financial fraud thing I have seen probably ever. So here is this flow chart that these guys have made, which connects all these players together. I think it's important. And it makes it a little bit easier to visualize everything. I posted this up on Twitter as well when this article first came out the other day. But you can see how everybody's connected and how they try to get to the presidential administration and try to stop this investigation from happening, which obviously they were not successful in. But there is a whole huge story about how they did try to get the case halted against Low and the investigation into this whole thing. There are also some notes from various filings, and some other ones look like they're probably from depositions. Very interesting details. So just to wrap up, we'll skip to the bottom here. Michelle's trial is set to begin on March 27th in Washington. It will feature a rare convergence of superpower rivalry, beltway politics, and Hollywood glamour. Kenner, who's previously represented rap artists such as Snoop Dogg and Suge Knight, is seeking to call Obama and Trump, both targets of Low's influence efforts, as witnesses, though it's uncertain whether either former president will appear. Meanwhile, DiCaprio is also on the witness list for the government, as is Higginbotham, whose filings show is cooperating with prosecutors. His testimony will be crucial. Kenner says he'll argue that Higginbottom is violating his professional obligations as Michelle's former attorney by disclosing their interactions. If convicted, Michelle is likely to be treated far more harshly than the other Americans involved in Lowe's lobbying campaign. Higginbottom pleaded guilty in 2018 to a single count of conspiracy to make false statements to a bank, with any sentence to be determined later. Representative for Higginbottom didn't respond. Lum Davis was sentenced to 2 years in prison for her own guilty plea to one count of aiding and abetting violation of the Foreign Agents Registration Act. In October 2020, Broidy pleaded guilty to a count of conspiracy to violate FARA stemming from his work for Lowe, but he was pardoned by Trump 3 months later. The following April, he signed a cooperation agreement with the DOJ, which promised not to prosecute him for other crimes that may arise in its investigation in exchange for his testimony and other assistance. And for the time being, there's a little chance that the man who brought them all together will see a prison cell. Wanted on a range of charges by the US as well as Malaysia, Lowe is believed to be living in China with his family. Although he's keeping a low profile, he's occasionally spotted in public. One of the last sightings was in 2019 at Shanghai Disneyland. Freaking wow. This whole thing is like next level. I definitely encourage you guys to go and read the whole article because it's just a massive, massive story of everything that happened from the very beginning. But it's very long, and I'm not going to sit here and read the whole entire massive article. And there's probably some YouTube issue with that, anyways. It's also great that there is actually information coming forward about this trial. This article just came out on the 2nd. That bodes pretty well right now for further information in the next couple weeks, and we'll have to see what happens when the trial actually starts. But yeah, very, very interesting stuff, you guys. I hope that you find this as fascinating and intriguing as I do. And thank you once again for joining me here. Going to keep it short today, but hope you guys enjoyed. Appreciate you. Please like, subscribe, all of that good stuff. And I will see ya in the next one. Bye.